Welcome into the Inside Indiana Show. I'm Editor-in-Chief Ken Bikoff, along with publisher Ed Magoni. And the Hoosiers struggled on the football field last week against Illinois, but we're going to get to that in a few minutes. For the time being, Ed, the buzz around Bloomington, of course, as it is always this time of year, Hoosier Hysteria is coming up, and it's October 15th at Assembly Hall. Doors open at 6:30. But beyond just being a kickoff to the season, this also is kind of a showcase for Indiana to bring in recruits and show them the passion that surrounds Indiana basketball. This whole event, beyond just being that showcase, what do you think that it's really worth to the fans and to recruits?
Well, I think it's important to fans just because they get a chance to see the new players, especially Cody Zeller and Remy Abel and Austin Etherington. And those are guys they haven't seen yet. They get to see the off-season developments of the other players physically. I mean, it's not easy to ascertain what they got, how they've progressed in skill-wise or on the basketball court, but it is physically, it's pretty noticeable. I mean, once you look at Victor Oladipo and a couple of guys like that, they've developed themselves physically. As far as recruits go, I think it's a great opportunity for the recruits to come in and see, like you said, the passion that IU fans have. There's probably going to be over 10,000 people there, I'm guessing, this year, because Cody Zeller, is going to draw a big crowd. And it's a Saturday night this year, not a Friday night. It's not at midnight. It's earlier in the day, so more people are going to be able to come into town. And there's the whole class, the entire class of 2012 as it sits right now is going to be there. That's going to draw some more people, and it's going to be that's an influential event just to have them all there, helping recruiting along for the Hoosiers. All the commitments there from 2012. Pleading their case and the Hoosiers' case to the 2013, 2014, 2015 classes, especially Gary Harris, who obviously influenced the day of the event from Friday to Saturday.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing is, the fact that IU went ahead and changed the day of the event. Now, they won't publicly say this, but obviously, Gary Harris plays football. He has a game on Friday night. They moved to Saturday night to accommodate him to be able to come down and be with the rest of this class of 2012, and all the other 2013, 2014 recruits are going to be in town. And, he's going to see, IU fandom and the IU faithful in all its glory and support. And, when you see 10,000, 11,000 people there for nothing more than a scrimmage or a practice, that's pretty impressive. Yeah,
and again, we're not letting any cats out of the bag there. I mean, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out why Indiana moved the event from its normal time. But certainly, seeing the guys go through everything, be it a three-point contest or a dunk contest, you get a feel for their athleticism. You get a feel for exactly how guys have developed during the off-season. And certainly it should be an event that people will want to come to just so that they know exactly what they're getting into in this season, which I think is a real critical one for the Hoosiers.
It is a pivotal season. I think a lot of people have been pointing to this year. This is Tom Crean's fourth year in Bloomington. His first group of senior players, even though he didn't recruit all of them, he did recruit Verdell Jones, and he influenced Tom Pritchard and Matt Roth to stay when Sampson was ousted from the head coaching position. But I think it's a collaboration of that class along with the junior class. Now they have some leadership with Jordan Halls and and the Christian Watford, Maurice Creek, that group of kids who came in and were supposed to be the guys who turned it around. And now that they have Cody Zeller in the middle, maybe they will be able to turn it around.
Well, of course, Ed, one of the members of the junior class that you just mentioned suffered an injury this week, and he's just one of the Hoosiers that are hurting right now. Well, of course, the sad news coming out of the basketball program this week is that junior Maurice Creek has suffered a ruptured Achilles tendon, and that's an injury. It's a third major leg injury for Creek in less than 2 years. A ruptured Achilles isn't good in anybody, and in athletes it's tough to come back from. It can be done, certainly, and it's something that where it's going to take a lot of rehab, but it could also force Creek out for the year.
Yeah, there's no question about that, Ken, because he wasn't even back to 100% after he fractured his patella last season, and he was 80, maybe 85% back from that. He still need to work on his conditioning, but then this happens again, sets him right back to square one, where he's recovering from another major surgery, and Achilles tendon is not a pleasant thing to come back from. It's an intensive rehab again. Like he spent basically his first 2 seasons in Bloomington, now his 3rd season in Bloomington, in rehab. I mean, you have to feel awful for the kid. I mean, he's a good basketball player. He's worked really hard to come back from his first 2 injuries, and now he's got another setback, with his Achilles. I mean, it's tragic, I guess.
Yeah, it really is, and I want to make it clear that we don't know the specifics of Creek's injury. That's outside of the fact that it was a ruptured Achilles tendon. How bad the injury was and how much surgery it took. However, just for kind of the information of our viewers, Achilles tendon is the strong tendon that connects the calf muscle to the heel of the foot. And, again, it's an injury that people can come back from. It is tougher a little bit than for basketball than maybe some sports. I know Dan Marino suffered one and came back from it, but Patrick Ewing did during his career in the NBA. And I know the Phillies' Ryan Howard suffered the same injury at the end of the baseball playoffs before the Phillies were eliminated. It's an injury that's going to take 6 to 9 months to come back from. That's what most people are saying. And again, for a guy like Creek, who already, I don't want to say he had weak legs, but certainly he's had to go through so much rehab and so much time off of those legs that you get some muscle atrophy. I think it is going to be a tough time coming back.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, I don't know that he was never fully recovered from his first injury, from his freshman season, and then he injured. Then he was getting closer to 100%, as Coach Crean said last season. When he went down again with another patella problem, and then he starts to come back from that, working all off season, getting back in shape from that, and now he suffers another injury. I mean, it's just you've that many injuries and that many compounding problems, and once you fix something, sometimes there are surgeries where you have a surgery and it actually makes your tendons and ligaments stronger, because they can go and the human body has some defects in it, obviously, and the surgeons can go in there and fix those and make them stronger. But at the same time, when you have that many problems, you've atrophy across the board. Your lower body gets weaker. You can't work out your upper body as much because you can't stand up to do all the proper exercises for your upper body. And Maurice has just been in rehab for so long. It's just it's going to take him more than 6 to 9 months to come back from it, to get his conditioning back. And certainly to make sure his patella is still going to heal properly from his injury last season.
Right, and just the mental aspect of it, too, of being able to come back. We certainly wish Maurice Creek the absolute best of luck in his rehab, and we look forward to seeing him on the court again. Now, also, Dusty Keel from the IU football team, quarterback, suffered a high ankle sprain against Illinois, and that injury is a lot of people might have questions about what exactly a high ankle sprain is, and that's basically when the 2 bones in your lower leg twist and stretches the tendon that connect the 2 bones together. It's a tough one to come back from, but on the bright side, the Hoosiers get Edward Wright Baker back. At least they should. All indications are that he'll be back this week when the Hoosiers take on Wisconsin. But when we get back, we'll take a look back at the Illinois game and just talk about what went right and what went wrong for the Hoosiers in that one.
What's up, buddy? You doing good? Come on, let me in!
Want to get inside Indiana? Call 800-282-GO-IU today to get the best in-depth coverage you'll find anywhere on the Indiana Hoosiers. You'll get 12 full-color glossy issues packed with the Hoosier news you crave, plus our exclusive online express edition featuring game previews, reviews, and much, much more, all for just $49.95. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.
Somebody in there! Let me in! Please.
Welcome back into the Inside Indiana show. Now, Ed, we mentioned it earlier. The Hoosiers fall 41-20 to Illinois on the gridiron in a game in which, Indiana had some opportunities early on and didn't really take advantage of it. Struggled on offense, certainly struggled on defense at times, but this was a game in which I think maybe a lot of Indiana's flaws, especially when it comes to their depth on offense, really were highlighted.
Yeah, I would say so, Ken. I mean, they had the chance coming out of the gate with Shane Wynn's kickoff return at the opening kickoff for the touchdown. Then the defense forces a 3-and-out. They had pretty decent field position on their second possession. Couldn't get anything done with that. Then they get a turnover on the third possession from Illinois, and they were only able to manage a field goal out of that opportunity. And there's a chance right there to go up, 17 points or 21 points or at least 13 points, and they come out with 10-0, and then Illinois is kind of thinking to themselves, well, maybe we aren't as bad off, because obviously the momentum was with Indiana after the kickoff return for a touchdown. And the defense came out and they were fired up. And then they hit the long pass to A.J. Jenkins, and they get a fumble recovery return for a touchdown when Keel gets hit and fumbles. And, the whole game just turned on its end right there.
And now, of course, is it a matter of these kids, basically so many freshmen, so many young players playing for the Hoosiers, who are just making freshman mistakes, or is there something that is maybe a little bit deeper? And just, I know that the coaching staff talked about a lack of communication on defense, guys not being on the same page. Halfway through the season, it seems that these are some issues that should be cleared up, and the Hoosiers just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot of personnel changes, from the beginning of the season to the middle of the season to the end, and now they're, into the Big Ten season. And, it's difficult to install a new scheme defensively and offensively, and then change personnel constantly, because the guys who were taking most of the reps in the spring are either hurt or they just weren't getting the job done. They've been benched, and younger players are playing or substitutes are playing. And the two deep has really been flip-flopped quite a bit, and I think that's probably causing as many problems as anything. A lot of the guys who had all the practice time aren't necessarily taking the snaps now in real game action, and that's really set back Indiana. But in addition to that, the coaching staff has tried to simplify things for these guys. And, you just can't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Sooner or later you have to realize that, for instance, on the long touchdowns to A.J. Jenkins, they had an extra guy blitz who wasn't supposed to blitz. Leaves him one-on-one with the safety. He's one of the best receivers in the country. And he catches a pass in a lot of open space, makes the safety miss, and then he's gone for a touchdown. And suddenly the game's right back in Illinois', the momentum switched again to Illinois. So, that's the kind of thing that just can't keep happening. Or they miss a blocking assignment on a blitz pickup, or that gets Dusty Keel hit and he fumbles and they return for a touchdown. And those are the kinds of things that by game 6 of the season you should have pretty well squared away, and they don't.
Now, of course, that it wasn't all doom and gloom for the Hoosiers against Illinois. You mentioned Shane Wynn and his kickoff return. That was certainly a bright spot. Adam Pines showed a little bit more consistency than he has this year. And also, Hoosier fans got their first real lengthy look at Trey Roberson on the field at quarterback. Dusty Keel had the sprained ankle. Coach Wilson says that contributed to his struggles. But Roberson did show some things when he was out on the field that certainly seems to bode well for his future.
Oh, I think so. Whether or not he ever actually becomes a starting quarterback permanently, but he certainly adds a dimension to the offense that with a young offensive line and an undersized offensive line, where the opponent, like for instance Illinois, has an incredibly good pass rush. I think Trey Roberson adds a wrinkle to the offense that maybe the Edward Wright Baker and Dusty Keel can't or don't. His ability to scramble, his ability to make plays with his legs, his ability to actually give the defense a moment of pause with the read option. Dusty Keel runs that play. Maybe if he has a good play on it, he gets like 8 yards. If Trey Roberson gets a hole, he could be gone. I mean, that's the difference. Is the big play potential out of a running game where he can, if he pitches it to Stephen Houston or D'Angelo Roberts or whoever the guy in the lines up in the backfield with him may be, they have big play potential back there because Roberson is a legitimate threat running the football. Edward Wright Baker and Dusty Keel, not so much. So, and he also seemed to throw the ball with good velocity, pretty decent accuracy. I mean, for first live action against a pretty stiff pass rush that the Illini brought to the table, I thought he handled himself pretty well. Now, granted, the game was out of hand when he got in there, but still, he looked pretty sharp.
Well, the Hoosiers, of course, they're going to face a challenge this coming week with Wisconsin hosting the Hoosiers in Madison. And when we get back, we'll take a look at some of the challenges Indiana might run into against the Badgers.
It's a new year. There's a new buzz. And there's a new Inside Indiana magazine. For more than 20 years, Inside Indiana has been your best source for the kind of in-depth coverage of Hoosier athletics you crave, and now the best just got better. By calling 800-282-GO-IU, you can experience 12 packed issues dedicated to Indiana athletics in full-color glossy brilliance for only $49.95. But that's not all. You'll also receive access to our new Inside Indiana Express edition online, featuring game previews, news, photos, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? To stay up to date on the Kevin Wilson era and all the excitement surrounding Tom Crean's Hoosiers, plus all the news you want on the rest of Hoosier athletics, call 800-282-GO-IU today. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.
Welcome back into the Inside Indiana Show. Ken Bikoff with Ed Magoni, and the Hoosiers, again, they traveled to Madison this week, as we talked about a little bit before the break. Everyone remembers what happened last time Indiana went up to Madison, an 83-20 loss to the Badgers, a game that really kind of sealed the deal for Bill Lynch in a lot of people's eyes. I mean, anytime you score 20 points and you still lose by 9 touchdowns, that is something that it's tough to bounce back from. This coaching staff says it's a different year. It's a different group of players. It's a different feel. Do you believe that?
Well, it's definitely a different group of players. We know that much. The personnel changes have been drastic since last season, even though they weren't necessarily supposed to be this drastic, but they have been due to injury or just lack of performance from some of the veterans. But, I can't imagine. I mean, if you were on that team last year, how can you not point to last year's game as something you want to avenge? I mean, how can you take a 63-point loss where Wisconsin's throwing the ball in the fourth quarter, down the field on you, and just say, well, that was last year, I'm not going to worry about it? I mean, I think you have to bring some of that animosity, some of that revenge factor to the field with you. And if you don't, you're probably going to get beat again by 63 points, because Wisconsin's even better than they were last season.
Yeah, the Hoosiers are going to need that chip on their shoulder, certainly. The problem, of course, with having that chip on your shoulder is that the Badgers are as talented this year as they have been at any time. I mean, running back James White, running back Monty Ball, wide receiver Nick Toon, quarterback Russell Wilson. This is a talented team, and the number is amazing. Wisconsin's offensive line averaging 6'5", 322 pounds. Indiana's offensive line that started last game averaged 6'3½", 280 pounds. So that's the kind of difference. It's a 40-pound difference between the Badgers and the Hoosiers and their offensive lines. What does Indiana have to do to stay in this game or somehow pull off an upset in this one?
Well, first and foremost, you have to stop their running backs. And Monty Ball is not an easy guy to stop. He's got 13 touchdowns this season. He made Nebraska look like a bunch of high schoolers, for crying out loud. Nebraska's got a very, very talented and good defense. But you have to stop the run first and foremost. Russell Wilson, though, I mean, is better than Wisconsin's quarterbacks of the past. I mean, he's an ultra-talented kid. He can run himself. He can create plays with his feet. He can buy time with his feet. He can find guys down the field. He throws the ball like it's on a rope. I don't know that IU can really slow them down that much. I hate to say that, but it's going to be very difficult unless Russell Wilson just has a bad game where he's throwing turnovers or someone starts fumbling the football. You just have to try to make them drive the ball length of the field. You can't give up the big plays. I mean, that's the key, is to keep them away from breaking off 50-yard runs or 60-yard touchdown passes that IU surrendered in the last couple of games. Then you just have to hope that the offense finds a way to move the football and keep their defense, Indiana's defense, off the field, because when you're going against an offensive line that size, you're going to wear down. I don't care who you are. I mean, Nebraska wore down in the fourth quarter, and they just ran it right down their throats. So, and Nebraska is a big ball club in itself, and Indiana doesn't have that kind of size.
And like you said earlier, this to me is a pride game for Indiana. The 83-20. Some people say that the Hoosiers lost to Michigan last year, lost to Iowa, and each one of those games they could point at it as, hey, this is one that we should win, and how many times you go to the well on that. However, that 83 points was an embarrassment for Indiana, and it more or less ended Bill Lynch's time here at Indiana. Is something that the players have been feeling for a while. And so, to me, if those players have any kind of pride, if they have the kind of heart that certainly the coaching staff believes that they have, it's going to be time for them to step up their game and really give Wisconsin everything they have. If it's a matter of talent and they are overwhelmed by that, that's fine. But the Hoosiers need to put up a fight, especially early on, and show that they're not going to be kicked around again. Now, you probably know which way we're already leaning, but when we get back, Ed and I will give you our predictions for how the Hoosiers might fare in Madison.
What's up, Worker? How's it going? What's up, buddy? You doing good? Come on, let me in!
Want to get inside Indiana? Call 800-282-GO-IU today to get the best in-depth coverage you'll find anywhere on the Indiana Hoosiers. You'll get 12 full-color glossy issues packed with the Hoosier news you crave, plus our exclusive online express edition featuring game previews, reviews, and much, much more, all for just $49.95. Inside Indiana. You can't get closer to IU athletics without a scholarship.
Somebody in there! Let me in! Please.
Welcome back into the Inside Indiana show. Ed, we got to give our predictions here. Wisconsin's won 6 straight in this series, 12 of the last 14 meetings. Of course, the 83-20 last year. Indiana last won when Antoine Randall was here, and they put 63 on the Badgers in Madison in 2001. What do you think that the outcome is going to be with this one?
Well, the odds right now are IU's underdog by 38 points. And I think that speaks volumes to what most people see this game devolving into. And I don't see it coming out much differently than that. I mean, I don't know that IU's going to lose by 38 points. I hope they don't, just for the sake of the mental standpoint of the players moving forward. I think if IU goes up there and gives Wisconsin a good game, I think that'll be a positive mental influence for the younger players and the veterans, and maybe they can salvage a couple of wins down the stretch. If they go out there and they get beat by 40, 50 points, then I think you see what happened last season, where you just lose any hope of really turning the season around or getting making any kind of progress for the rest of the season. And it's going to be tough to stop Wisconsin's rushing attack. I mean, that's always first and foremost when you go against the Badgers. But they just have way too much firepower. I mean, they dismantled Nebraska, and I think a lot of people thought Nebraska was going to win the Big Ten this season. But I just don't think IU has the horses to compete against this kind of talented, huge, massive offensive and defensive teams.
Now, the struggle to me is they've dropped 2 straight in the Big Ten, 3 straight overall. Now they have to go to Wisconsin. Next week they go to Iowa, home game, a couple more road games at Michigan State and Ohio State. This is a team that desperately needs a win, but this also is a team that did not need to see Wisconsin this week, and I think that the Badgers are going to handle their business pretty well. It is enough that they're in Madison, but they're a team that's rolling. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and Indiana is not playing with a lot of confidence right now, and I think that that's going to be a real detriment here. I mean, the Hoosiers, they might not lose by 38. I do think that they go home losers in this one. But one thing that I am confident about, Ed, is that we're out of time for the Inside Indiana show. So for Ed Magoni, I'm Ken Bikoff. Thanks for watching, and pace yourself.